Destroy the core. Force field. Option. Missile. Destroy the core. Shoot it in the head. Force field. Double. Double. Destroy the ball. Force field. Force field. Double. Force field. Missile. Force field. Laser. Option. Force field. Destroy the core. Destroy the core.
Start.
Speed up. Speed up. Option. Missile. Option. Laser. Missile. Destroy the core. Force field. Force field. Force field. Force field. Shoot it in the head. Destroy the core.